Okay, so we should be live, and I'm streaming today using the Pixel 3. And yeah, we'll see what happens here. Going to have the chat pretty much open up. So hopefully, hopefully the stream's pretty good. But as you guys are coming in, feel free to say hi. Um, I know most of the time my live streams are like pretty much like open and just like talking about whatever, but I do have a couple of subjects I do want to talk about. I just gotta bring the iPhone here. Jaime Garcia, hello. Hey, how's it going? Um, so as the title implies, uh, hey, you made it for the live. Hey, how's it going? Um, okay, so for this live, I do have a couple of subjects I want to talk about. First one I want to talk about is um, the sun is out. It's already getting dark. Yeah, it's getting dark. It's evening time. But first thing I do want to address is I want to address the new Mobile X6. Um, I know that I stated on Thursday that I was going to drop 3 videos, and I don't know why I said that fast, because obviously Friday was Valentine's Day, and my focus needed to be elsewhere, because that's where I wanted my focus to be. So I didn't drop those videos. Those videos are still they're in final stages of being cooked up, and I'm gonna release them out. But I do want to kind of address Alan A. Hey, what's up? Big John Tech Reviews. Hey, what's good, man? Thanks for coming through. I want to talk about the new Mobile X6 in I guess some people's expectations of the phone itself. And I just kind of want to remind people that the X6 from New Mobile is a budget, kind of mid-range device. Okay. I'm like baffled at seeing talks about it. Those people that actually got interested into the device, but then decided to just say like, oh well, um, you can get, like a OnePlus device or something that's better than that. And you know, not throwing shade, but I think the expectations is kind of a little bit off. I wouldn't compare the new Mobile X6 to the OnePlus 7 Pro T McLaren or any of those type phones. The X6 is not to compete with those phones. It wasn't built for that reason. The device itself only costs $99, $100 for the phone itself. And in my video, you guys will hear my thoughts about it and like, who do I think the device is for. But I'm definitely gonna go out here and say this, that if you look at X6, because the way it looks, when you search it on newmobile.com, or if you go to was it water resistance? No, it is not water resistant. But if you go into that notion of thinking that it's going to be like flagship, it's not. It's not New Mobile's flagship. Like, I know that New Mobile didn't come out with the G4. They decided to completely pass that. And I haven't asked them what they got cooking up as far as like a flagship device. But the X6 is a budget mid-range. A little bit under mid-range, but let's just call it a budget device. Let's call it what it is. It's a budget device. And that's the expectations that I think that you guys should have if anyone's interested in getting that phone. They gotta understand. The reason that I wanted to review the phone, even though it's not flagship or a high-end mid-ranger, is because it brings to the table something that we haven't had in a long time, and that's a removable battery. In my unboxing, you agree, Alan? Cool. In my unboxing, I don't know if you guys watched the unboxing video all the way through, but you guys can hear my enthusiasm when I actually hold the battery in my hand. It has a removable battery, which I think is dope. We don't see a lot of that nowadays. Everything is pretty much like built in. You love removable batteries, but then with the X6, if you are in the market for something on a budget that's decently okay, the X6 may be something you might want to look at. But hold out for my my impressions video. It's not my full review, but it's my impression videos, because there are some caveats to the phone that I want to make apparent, and that's going to come in the video. But yeah, it has removable battery. It has dual SIM and expandable storage. So there is 2 SIM slots, and I confirmed it. It does use DSDS support, so dual SIM, dual standby. That's something that I think that you guys need to know about, because I mean, there are devices that can do dual SIM, but they only do single standby, like the Pixel 3, which don't understand why Google built the Pixel 3 that way, but gave DSDS support to the Pixel 3a. That's kind of crazy, but yes, it does support DSDS. It does have 2 different IMEIs, therefore it can do that. So yeah, I just want to put it out there. Apparently, the new Mobile X6 is a budget device, so gotta kind of think about that before you decide. I mean, like, there are some things bad about it, but for those are people that are like, it can't hold up against the OnePlus 7T Pro, whatever, or it's not meant to. It's not meant to do that. Does the new Mobile X6 can be used on visible wireless? No, it cannot. Even though, like, if you were to look at the LTE bands that Verizon has, and then look at the LTE bands that like T-Mobile and AT&T have, the device cannot use visible. So if you're thinking about getting the X6 and then putting it on visible, it's not going to happen. I already tried putting my visible SIM into the X6 and then seeing, and it just would not register a connection at all whatsoever. And plus, it says it on the box that it cannot connect to Verizon at all. So, but just to make sure, I decided to go ahead and go through and put my visible SIM in it. It didn't connect at all. So you can put Mint Mobile in it, you can put Cricket in it, you can put those carriers in it, but you cannot put Verizon in it. So, and it's kind of a bummer. Does the phone have a different case we can buy to protect the phone? Yeah, I mean, there should be eventually in time, besides the one that comes with it. But I mean, again, the X6 is not going to be like a super popular device that everyone's going after, right? So the chances of it is, it's going to be probably pretty hard to find. But I'm sure there's going to be some cases for it. I mean, New Mobile is kind of making a name for themselves out here in the market. Yeah. I mean, like, just stay tuned for the impressions video, because there's a lot I'm going to cover in that. I mean, it's not going to be the full review, but there's going to be some stuff that I do want you guys to know about before you guys run off and like spend like $99 on it. Well, let's switch tracks here, because one of the most interesting things is that since the judge went ahead and signed off on basically the merger for T-Mobile and Sprint to combine, my friends are talking about it quite a bit. Sneed has like major coverage on it. There's other people that are having coverage on it, and they get on live streams, they talk about it, and they talk about like what's going to happen with Sprint customers and the type of plans and the type of deals that they got. Is it going to be honored if they go over to T-Mobile? And those are very important things that people really got to start thinking about, especially like what Sneed said in his stream last night, talking about like those accounts where they were given like 3 lines for free, 3 mid budget devices to go along with it, right? Those types of Sprint deals that Sprint was doing to try and attract new customers to come over to them, because they were hemorrhaging customers really, really bad. The one thing that I noticed, and it's not a big deal that they don't really bring it up or mention it, but yeah, it's what's going to happen to Google Fi, like what to expect. I mean, right? Because we know Google Fi always touted itself for having 3 different networks to connect to, right? But we do know that once the merger is in effect started and happening, Sprint is gone bye-bye. We'll have 5G in the near future. What do you mean we'll have 5G? Like we will have 5G? You will have 5G? Clarify that for me. But the state of Google Fi, like what's going to happen to it? And that is a very big thing. The phone? Which phone? The X6? The X6 is not going to connect to 5G. Most things today don't really connect to 5G anyways. I mean, there are devices coming out that are becoming 5G capable. That is the market that, Samsung and them are trying to make their dollars off of. Even though, if you guys heard my audio podcast, I said it in there. It's not a popular thing to say, but I'm gonna say it. It's not the best time to be buying 5G devices when carriers are not even 75% rolled out nationwide with their 5G coverage, right? It's just going to be headaches. You're just going to get like the worst experience ever. And yeah, it's just pointless to go through that. If T-Mobile and Sprint merge, well, what's going to happen to Text Now with the free plan? I'm assuming that Text Now is going to honor that, because as their deal says, it's unlimited talk and text for life, right? So even if let's say like Text Now had to come up with a deal with AT&T and use their network, well, then that means they still have to honor it. Once you signed up for a Text Now account and then you went ahead and opted in for the voice and text off of Wi-Fi, they pretty much got to honor that. I mean, they sure as heck don't want a class action lawsuit from like hundreds of thousands of people who went ahead and grabbed a Text Now account. I mean, it's crazy. As soon as Text Now went live with giving people unlimited talk and text for life, a lot of people I'm seeing now is talking about Text Now. I mean, I think it was funny. Lawrence told me that I put that info out before Text Now even released that info. I mean, they was beta testing it. They were allowing certain people to get it. And then I think that's like I put my video out, and then 2 days later, like Text Now actually like officially announced it. So, but I mean, it's got to be honored, unless Text Now shuts down as a company. Like what was that other? There was another prepaid company that had to shut down that was using Sprint's network. I forgot what they were called. It was a while back. But yeah, one of the biggest things that needs to be talked about is like exactly what's going to happen with Google Fi. And short story, Google Fi, it's kind of like the whole thing, like what Timon said in The Lion King, right? That their trio is now down to 2, and that could possibly be it. But I would like to think that Google's smart enough to know they've been pitching 3 network dependency, that they're going to do what they can to have 3 network dependency. Now it can go either way. I mean, they can strike a deal with Verizon, which I would think would be the way that they would go, since Google has been giving like the Pixel devices exclusively to Verizon. And yeah, I know you can get them like on T-Mobile. Like right now, right now is a hell of a time to be on T-Mobile, right? Pixel 4 for $399, like that's a pretty good deal. Especially a lot of people are talking about like the original Pixel 4's batteries is doing pretty good. So I just want to mention that real quick, because that's actually got me intrigued and thinking about actually getting one now. But we'll see if Verizon is going to be the spot that Google Fi decides to try and work out some sort of negotiations to be able to, use Verizon's network. Because like I said in past videos, Google Fi customers can already use Verizon's network. Now, it's not a network that they're gonna, obviously always be connected to. This is only for like, basically roaming capabilities. When you're in an area where T-Mobile and Sprint don't work and there's no US Cellular, Verizon is what you connect to, and you don't pay for roaming charges. So roaming is free. I'm trying to get this to just stay there. Using the iPhone to read the comments. But anyhow, so I would think that a strong possibility that Google Fi may try to work out some sort of deal with Verizon to continue to have that 3 network dependency. But it could always just be where they're just connected to 2 networks. Because I mean, originally when Google Fi was Project Fi, they were only connecting to T-Mobile and Sprint, right? They didn't add a 3rd carrier until they negotiated a deal with US Cellular. Once they negotiated that deal, then they started going around touting about 3 network dependency: T-Mobile, Sprint, and US Cellular. But before that, when they originally started out, when it was an invite only type thing, Google Fi only connected to Sprint and T-Mobile. And yeah, so for me, it can go Verizon or AT&T. Okay, neither one of those choices are bad. Like, to be realistic, AT&T is doing pretty good nowadays. Verizon is doing okay, goodish. Not really counting the 5G thing. Okay, so because 5G is not ready, it's not prime, so I really don't care. But with their LTE coverage, Verizon still does really good, and AT&T is doing pretty good themselves too, with their 5GE, which is LTE advanced. So that really depends on Google if they're really going to want to try to keep that three network dependency. And like, honestly, for me, I think business wise they should try to negotiate some sort of deal with Verizon or AT&T. It can go either way in my opinion, but some people prefer Verizon, some people prefer AT&T, so we can't please the whole world. But yeah, but there's always that odds chance that it's just going to be two, because people just kind of tripped out about it, like what would happen with the merger, which it's kind of weird. I mean, it's called a merger. I call it absorbing, because the Sprint name is going to be dead, and all T-Mobile's really grabbing is their assets, their spectrum is what they're trying to get a hold of, and use it to build out their 5G. So it's not two companies coming together to make things better. It's T-Mobile basically looking at a dying company saying, I'll bail you out of your financial struggles, but I want these things that you own, these the spectrum that you have, I want it. And agree to the deal means the Sprint name is dead, which is going to be sad because Sprint has been around long before. As a matter of fact, I remember as a kid, my family had Sprint, but we didn't have cell phones, mobile phones, smartphones when I was a kid. We had landline phones, which, we had Sprint. We had Sprint landline service. This was back in the day when the logo of Sprint was gray and red. They didn't switch it to black and yellow with the pin drop logo. Yes, when I was a kid growing up, Sprint was a telephone company for phones. They didn't specialize in mobile communications. It wasn't until mobile phones started to become something that people were grabbing. Like when I was in my teens, that's when Sprint was moving into being a cell phone provider. Because you had AT&T, you had Sprint. AT&T was like more popular back in the day, at least in Hawaii. And VoiceStream. So this was before T-Mobile, the name T-Mobile came around. It was known as VoiceStream. But that's when they were selling like the Nokias, 3330 or whatever they had. That was way back in the day. What it is right now, wasn't like that back then. But then AT&T got bought out by Singular, and Singular Wireless was around, and then Singular was like, no one will hardly recognize the name as much as people recognize AT&T, so then they changed themselves back to AT&T. Well, not back to, it was Singular Wireless, but they changed their name to AT&T after the company they bought. So, I mean, the Sprint name pretty much gone. After this point, my phone was like falling. So yeah, Google Fi customers really don't have to worry about how the merger is quote unquote going to impact Google Fi customers. I mean, there will be one part of the merger that's going to impact Google Fi customers, but it's not so much about like how many networks am I going to be able to connect to. The thing that's going to impact Google Fi customers, which I'm pretty sure Google's going to be very worried about here. Because already Google's having a tough time really trying to, market themselves. I mean, they put themselves between a rock and a hard place. You're talking about a company who said, we're not going to compete with anybody So now that they brought out unlimited plan for them and whatnot or whatever, they had to stay in a position that said, we're not competing against you, T-Mobile. We're not competing against you, Sprint. They had to stay in that, which is why I feel like that Google does not change the way they bill, and they still bill you with taxes, fees, and surcharges on top of your monthly rate, rather than doing like an all flat rate type billing. Is because then if that happened, think about it like this: if that happened, they would be super competitive, because you would get like a flat rate bill, say like $60 unlimited flat rate, right? $60 unlimited flat rate, and you have access to 3 different networks. So do you think T-Mobile will be bigger than AT&T when they merge? I don't think they'll be bigger than AT&T, because AT&T is already big. The subscriber count they have is already big, and so is Verizon. Like I said before in past live streams and videos, when you think about the 4 carriers, think of Sprint and T-Mobile as mini carriers, and then AT&T and Verizon as major carriers. So with those 2 combining, T-Mobile and Sprint, it'll make them equivalent to contend against AT&T and Verizon. And then of course Dish will come in and fulfill that void of a 4th carrier, which is, for me, honestly, I really don't see why having a 4th carrier is so important to the market. Yes, 3's a crowd, but then again, 3 is still competition, in my opinion. But I mean, that's just me. But nonetheless, what's going to affect Google Fi customers basically is when the merger happens. Of course, cell sites are going to be taken down. They're going to be moved. They're going to be worked on. Because T-Mobile's got a lot of work to do. They got a lot of money they got to dump into their network to build out their 5G, especially with all these attorney generals trying to block the merger, put a setback, actually put T-Mobile way behind in the races to the race to 5G, which is a little bit unfair. But yeah, they're gonna have to play catch up. I mean, from sources, they say that T-Mobile's behind, at least 1 to 2 years behind AT&T and Verizon. But yeah, Google Fi customers will feel the pinch of that. They will feel it, because it's not like, I mean, it'd be awesome if they would do this, right? Like, let's say like right next to my apartment building, there was well, not right next to it though, because you got to think of too how cell sites work. It's line of sight. So the closer you are to the tower doesn't mean you're going to get the best connection. If the signal's beamed over you, obviously you're going to be in an area that's going to stress to get it. It's called line of sight. But let's say halfway down the block of my street, let's say there's a cell site. They're going to go ahead and upgrade that during the process of merging. It'd be cool if they would put like a mobile site to kind of take the payload while that tower is down. And I think they might be doing something like that. I can't say for sure, because I don't work for T-Mobile. I don't know how their engineers are, and what methods they use to build or construct a cell site, or when the cell site goes down, how they repair it when they have to shut it down for a brief moment so they can make repairs, replace parts and things like that. But I will say that, it would be cool if they did use like a mobile cell site to kind of, take that payload and just kind of, keep the network going. But as a Google Fi customer, you can expect that there's going to be some issues. You're going to see some changes in the way that your device connects and the speeds that it has, right? Because there's a lot of things that goes along with network connections too, Let's see. I don't think 5G is necessary anyways. There's free Wi-Fi everywhere. People are always connected to Wi-Fi first. Well, I mean, I would say that's in the eye of the beholder, right? So like, from our conversations that we've had, in the comments of my videos that you comment on, like, it's pretty much safe to say that I can say that, right now you're living a pretty frugal life. Right? So if it's money that you can save, if there's methods that you can do that would, cut down on your spending costs and, not have you have to do what you would consider to be unnecessary spending, then you're going to take that route. because you're in the end you're trying to keep more money in your pocket. Um, and that's totally fine. For other people, they would have a different need, right? Like where there's all different types of people that use mobile communications and basically the internet highway, and how they connect is something that will, it's based upon their needs and usage. 5G would do great, just for businesses and stuff like that. Honestly, like I mean that's the point that I look at it. Like for me personally, I know like people are rushing to get 5G because they want to watch Netflix faster on their phone, and they want to be able to, to have carriers increase the resolution that the video playback is streaming in. Because if you guys know, most carriers pretty much throttle your video streaming at 480p, which is DVD quality. I think um, it's been said, Snead had said it himself too, that it doesn't make sense when we'd have an unlimited data service, why they would throttle your video playback in only 480p. Um, so, I know that there's people that want that faster data speeds, so that way they can stream movies and videos in higher quality. To me, that's not a real important reason why to have 5G. More importantly, I think that 5G would do great and be beneficial for those that have businesses, for those emergency first responders, for things like that. 5G would really, do good there. But it's the next evolution in what we're doing with mobile communications and mobile technology. So we are advancing as always, and eventually 5G is going to be the norms. That's why I tell people like right now it's not the time to rush out and get a 5G device and struggle hard to have 5G when it's not even, in my opinion, it's not above 30% capacity across the United States. It's not even there yet. It's still got a ways to go. We still got years before it's before it's at its peak. And then when it's at its peak, that's when the networks are not the networks, but the companies are going to spend their money ironing out all the deficiencies in their network to make it a much more smoother experience. As you guys seen, when LTE came out, it was pretty spotty. Eventually, LTE blanketed, the major cities and highways going all across the United States. And then they just started advancing LTE, and we started seeing LTE-A. Um, and then of course, like right now, like a lot of people are interested in like how the networks work. LTE bands. What is FDD? What is TDD? What's the difference between them? How TDD works compared to FDD? Like all those things. And you know what? Like I encourage people, right? Like when you listen to Snead and you don't understand something that he's saying, Google search it. There's a lot of websites that will talk to you guys about LTE bands. What do they specifically do? The megahertz output. Of course, like certain LTE bands that, kind of double up together to provide the data transfer to your device. And then there's LTE bands that don't double up. Like the uplink and the downlink, is basically off one instead of it being doubled, all those things. Not trying to get too technical here before I lose, lose myself in all of it. Because that's what I've been doing, ever since, talking with Snead, hanging out, with him on his live streams, him and Pete, really inspired me to just do my own research, my own homework, and just kind of like learn, like what's, the intricate workings of spectrum and LTE bands and infrastructure, those types of things, FDD, TDD, those types of terminologies, what they mean, how aggregation works and all that stuff. I mean, because I had a slight idea just of, working for like, companies like Verizon and Sprint, but they only give you like the top water, right? Like you don't get to really dive into the deep waters unless you do it yourself, And so, yeah, I went ahead and did that. And so, I'm learning, more and more every day. And then a lot of things do start to make sense. When you get that knowledge, it helps you understand what to expect, right? So you kind of understand that per se, like, like a lot of people who have gone out and said Boost Mobile is trash. It's trash. It's trash. It's trash. Okay. What phone did you get? Because I mean, like, you can say the network is trash because the speeds are slow. You're only getting like 2 megabits per second down and, you know, zero point 0.5 up. But, you know, does the phone you got, does it, you know, support the latest, you know, LTE bands, right? And we know that Sprint's bands is 25, 26, and 41. Those are the bands that it has compared to, like, you know, T-Mobile and Verizon that has, you know, 2, 3, or 2, 4, 5, and, you know, 12, 17, yada yada yada, right? I mean, there's like so many different LTE, you know, bands, and you have to know the difference between which ones are FDD and which ones are TDD, um, which will tell you which ones kind of like double up together. So like with like for instance, example, LTE band 12, I believe, and 17, they kind of like double up together. Whereas let's see, was it band 71? That one doesn't. That one is like, you know, it doesn't double up with anything else. It's just the uplink and downlink is single, providing that speed. And then also, you know, that the lower the frequency, the better building penetration and whatnot, right? So like low band has, you know, good to connect signal strength and to penetrate buildings, trees, and stuff like that. Because yes, leaves and trees, and this is something funny because I never really, you know, never really took the time to really research it. But yeah, you know, like you know, a person that had Sprint had great coverage for 5 years. They had a tree in their front yard, and that tree grew for 5 years. And so 5 years later, Sprint was really crappy. Trying to explain to him that, you know, he has these trees that have grown in his front yard for years, have sprouted more leaves, more branches, has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger because, you know, I mean, in science we learned that trees grow. Yeah. So trying to explain to him like that was causing, you know, his whole thing with sorry, people are like parking next to me like left and right. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, trying to explain to him that that was causing interference with the signal, and then he was like, he yelled at me like, oh, so now you're gonna blame leaves. But yes, leaves do actually interfere with things. Honestly, I mean, you look right now with 5G, right? If you know, certain 5G, I think it's like what millimeter wave. As soon as you kind of get in the way, like if I was standing in front of you, boom, instant lost connection. And I tested that out with Carlos when Carlos was down here in Phoenix and we were walking around downtown, just kind of like, you know, testing out the networks, 5G and all that other stuff. You know, the moment that, you know, he had me stand in front of him, his connection to 5G just completely went, it just went down. So, bro, turn your music off. Crazy. But anyways, yeah. So, a lot of those things that, you know, we got to really think about. Do your homework, study on it. You're not going to try out for a job, you know, but it's always good to know, right? Knowledge is power. So, you know, the more things that you learn, the more things that you absorb, the better the information that you get, the better understanding that you'll have. And then other things that used to kind of like leave you puzzled, like what does that even mean? Now it's going to make a lot more sense. It's going to be a lot more clear. So I definitely would say to learn, you know, like to really go in there and learn, even if you just want to look at things. So it's like 3G on Freedom Pop is very bad. 5G is going to be like 3G in a way, I think. No, it's not gonna be slow like that, because you gotta remember, like, so like with 5G, different companies have their perspective on what they're gonna use and call as 5G, right? So you got Verizon that's using millimeter wave, but basically high band, to pump out. Now, the good thing about it is that yes, it does get about 1,000 megabits per second down. You do get those fast speeds, but the problem with millimeter wave is that it can't project far enough. Right? So if there was a 5G node from Verizon right here on my apartment building, the moment that I get across the parking lot, I'm going to lose that connection. Okay? T-Mobile's is low band, which doesn't push like super fast speeds as Verizon does, not yet, but it can go broader and it can go further and it can keep kind of a decent connection. Problem is that a lot of people that are testing T-Mobile's 5G are seeing that the speeds they're getting is either very similar to just basic LTE from T-Mobile, or it's slower than that, which is why T-Mobile needs Sprint's spectrum. They need that 2.5 gigahertz signal to help build out their 5G, because that's what they're relying on to provide fast speeds and be able to project long distance, right? Because T-Mobile is touting that their 5G will have you covered in rural areas, which is something that I think that a lot of consumers really wanted. They wanted that. The new T-Mobile rank AT&T in postpaid subscribers. As the merger completes and as everything gets better, it will. I have faith in them on that. And more. Oh my gosh, I just moved that. Sorry. But more than anything, right? These attorney generals just need to back off already. Judge signed off on it. The FCC signed off on it. The DOJ signed off on it. Come on, like, just let's let this go. The whole thing, and you know what? We'll kind of go into this too, because I didn't think about it till now. But the whole idea of what the AGs are talking about that it's going to hurt low-income families, it's going to hurt the prepaid market. Like, they're talking about prices are going to rise. Prices are going to rise with 5G because that's what they're going to do. I mean, look at when LTE, I say this a lot because I'm going by past examples, right? We all had 3G. We all had 3G, and then LTE came along, 4G came along, and what happened? Prices went up. For a little while, they went up. They were charging quite a bit to have LTE connection with a data allotted amount. Then, to become competitive, once LTE was pretty much built out for them pretty good, to become competitive, prices started going down. Went down like $50, and unlimited started happening, and prepaid was starting to look really, really delicious because people were like, oh, I could just go prepaid and pay $50 a month for unlimited. And, of course, T-Mobile set the standard with the whole, flat rate, taxes and fees included. And then Boost went along with it. And a lot of companies went along with it. And it was just like, yeah, prices are going to go up. They're going to go back down. That's how it's just going to go. And then they'll kind of go up with perks, right? So what we're seeing right now, Metro by T-Mobile, get Amazon Prime, get Google One service, Google Fi, go unlimited with us, get Google One services along with it. And get Netflix on us, get Hulu on us, right? Have prices ever gone down historically? They don't. Things only get more expensive as time goes on, and yeah, exactly. I mean, they will go down, right? Because of course they're going to want to pull subscribers from a competitor, right? So they could even do, like, say, hypothetically speaking, say for one line, for 15 gigabytes of 5G speeds, and then you slow down the LTE speeds for the remainder of your month, and say that costs you $105 for a single line. Let's just say that, hypothetically speaking, right? Eventually, as 5G is much more smoother, much more polished, they're going to become competitive with each other. So they'll probably it'll probably get down to a point where it's like, oh yeah, $70 flat rate for unlimited 5G on T-Mobile or on Metro by T-Mobile or whatever, right? That's going to be it. That's going to become the baseline right there, right? But then again, as they compete, the prices will fluctuate. Maybe like $95 a month for a single line on Metro by T-Mobile, unlimited 5G with Netflix on us, with Hulu, day or night, with Google One cloud storage services, and and T-Mobile Tuesday, right? There's all kinds of stuff that they could just throw in there. I mean, prices are going to fluctuate, but to have that idea that prices should not change from $50 when the network with the technology advancing is pretty ridiculous. Okay, cost of living is going up no matter what, right? And every year in January, the what is that called? I hate when I have these things where it comes in my mind and it instantly exits out. What's it called? Someone help me out here. Minimum wage. Minimum wage goes up every year, right? Depending on your state. Like right now, I think like minimum wage here is, I want to say it's $10.50. I think, possibly. Like, some places minimum wage is like $12. Some states minimum wage is, $9.75. Or the thing is that minimum wage goes up, cost of living goes up, inflation is something that we deal with outside of mobile technology. It's something that we deal with all the time, right? Like, look at a gallon of milk, right? Gallon of milk here where I'm at is like $2.49 a gallon, right? Some places it's $3 a gallon, some places it's $7. Hawaii, it's like $10 a gallon at some stores. The cheapest places that I've heard in Hawaii were like $7.50 for a gallon of milk. Right, supply and demand, how the product gets to an area, especially in Hawaii, everything has to be shipped there. Yeah, OMG, wow, yeah. But again, everything that's made here in the U.S. has to be shipped to Hawaii, either by plane or by boat. And so the price hike, like for instance, say a $2.50 gallon of milk here, if it gets shipped to Hawaii, it's sold for $7.50. The $5 that's tacked on that $2.50 pretty much pays for the gas to either sail a boat all the way to Hawaii with products, goods, and services, or to fly a plane that way. So yeah, Hawaii gets it pretty bad. Considering that, I don't know, there's like this weird effect going on right now. Or I think it's like the reflection of that. Hold on. I don't know where this reflection thing is coming from. It feels weird. It's on my face. Inflation outpaces minimum wage increases. Exactly. But open markets correct themselves. 80s phones were $1,000, but 90s were $2,000 for phones were only 300 to 500. They could drop below 1,000 again. Yeah, they could. They could, but I mean that's the thing that the AGs aren't really looking at, right? Like, they're so quick to just throw it like, oh, it's going to completely damage the the low income communities. Well, the low income communities, eventually things will balance itself out. It's going to go up. Everything is going to go up in price as it's something new technology, new products, new homes. New development, it all affects, the cost of living. It all affects it, right? Nothing is going to stay forever or it's going to stay constant. And then again, one of the things, and, I may sound like a bad guy here, and I'm going to say this right now ahead of it. I'm actually pretty sorry if people feel that way. What is going on with this camera thing? It's like really bothering me. You guys see this shadow reflection? Oh, I think it's from the... Oh, I know it's from. Stupid me. It's from that light over there. I'm just like that. And then that kind of like blocks it. But oh well. Anyways. What was I going to say? Dang it. I did it again. Oh yeah. When the AGs talk about phone service for low-income families, they kind of use that. We have a lot of things out here that kind of cater to that already, right? Like, they have those government phones that's given out for free in front of all the places where people go and apply for food stamps, right? That tent that's pitched, big old sign that says free phone. And then, because I've talked to them once, I seen a sign that says free phone, I'm going to stop and check it out, right? So I go and check it out. What did the guy tell me? Do you have a food stamp card? That's all we need to verify that you're a low-income family, and you can get a free phone with 200 minutes a month and 500 text messages, and what did you say, like 10 megabytes of data. But then you can always go to the website and pay for more data, or connect to Wi-Fi in open Wi-Fi areas. And I'm like, okay. But I mean, like, those phones obviously are given out for low-income families. And yes, it seems to be a little bit unfair because it's like, oh, it's not unlimited and yada, yada, yada. But things cost. You want services, you got to pay money. That's just how life is. The way that I see that life is that life don't care about your sad stories or your boo-hoos and cries, right? They don't. Let's see. Now, we don't... need that no more. We have free plans now from other carriers. I mean, well, yeah, you have like the unlimited talk and text from Text Now, But I'm just saying, like, the AGs project this whole model that if T-Mobile and Sprint come together, it's going to, cut a lot of jobs. It's going to out the low-income families from being able to get phone service. And that's just, that's just not it. I mean, like when I look at when I look at someone who like talks about like, they're it's hard for them to make ends meet. They're living paycheck to paycheck, right? And then they go and you know they opt for the say the iPhone 11. But you're dropping money for the iPhone 11, so obviously, you know, yes, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and maybe there's some things that you probably like kind of like fall behind on bills and have to drown for a little bit and come back up. And everyone faces those struggles. But you can buy an iPhone 11, you're okay. You're gonna be okay. Okay, you can spend that kind of money on that phone, you're gonna be okay. Um, you know, I'm one of those people that's like living from paycheck to paycheck, and yet every now and then I can find a way to grab a Pixel 3, which I did last year. I'm looking to find the best deal that I can because the Pixel 4 right now seems to be doing good, and I'm now intrigued in wanting to grab one. I could go to T-Mobile and get one at $399, which is a pretty good deal. I know the Google Store has a deal on the Pixel 4 XL. It's $200 off that, so it makes it $699 for the XL. The Pixel 4, the smaller variant, is still $799. So, but I'm just hearing good things about the battery in the Pixel 4, and I want to get one at a really good deal. I've seen some places that I've been checking around at. I know I got my eye on one that's being sold for like $461. Never been opened, and I can tell if the box has never been opened because anyone knows the Google box has the little plastic seal tab that you pull it, and if you pull it, that means the box has been opened. I don't care if you rewrapped it in cellophane and said it's never been opened. If those pull tabs are gone, it's been opened. So, but I'm looking at that, and $461, I may grab it. If someone's got it for $400, I may grab it. But yeah, there's I don't know. I don't like the position that they take on it when they want to use low income people as a way to kind of like stop something. Let's see. I still fail to see why the government should be subsidizing cell service. Literally, my first phone I bought myself at the age of 13 at a 7-Eleven. Why can a child afford to pay for his own phone, but adults can't? It's that, man. I'm just gonna speak my mind on this. It's that mentality that has been brought into this generation, our generation. People want more things without working hard, right? Like, not trying to get too political here, okay? But remember when people were okay with what was that called? The Green New Deal. Okay, one of the outlines of the Green New Deal was that you would be given a living wage. Just given a living wage. You didn't have to do crap. You don't have to do a job. Okay. And I saw an interview with Andrew Yang, who's running for president, and he was like, he wanted to give people $1,000 just to give them $1,000. Okay. Where's all that money gonna come from? We're gonna, like what that one lady Cortez says, we're gonna tax the tippy tops. Okay. Well, I mean, I actually researched that and did the math, and that's like, yeah, that's not gonna cover it. To give people free living wage, free this, free that, free this, free that. Like, but people buy into it. When people wonder like, how can so many people support the Green New Deal? It's because there's a lot of frees involved, and like everyone just wants something for nothing. AOC is a communist. She's insane. Yeah, I don't go so political on YouTube because everyone has like a different point of view. And like, I'm conservative. Okay, I'm gonna go out and say it. And people have their point of views. To me, your point of view is valid. Whether you agree with me or you disagree with me, valid. It's how you feel. You're entitled to believe in what you want to believe in and think the way you want to think. The thing is that because, I say I'm conservative, not a lot of people out there that are on the opposite side who would be tolerant of me or would say some things about me just in spite. of like what I say. So I don't really talk politics. At the end of the day, life goes forward. So whatever goes on in politics and government, yeah, that's that. I will not end friendships. I will not lose relationships based on something as idiotic as politics. Okay? Lose friendships over things that, kind of like would make sense why a friendship would end. Don't lose it over something as political point of views. That's, in my opinion, that's pretty stupid to end a friendship or to hate somebody that you don't know. It's not a good thing. Hopefully YouTube doesn't flag me for talking about politics. Because YouTube is crazy, man. I gotta tell everybody that right now. YouTube is crazy. You know what? Let's just go free for all. I don't care if YouTube does whatever to this live stream. Doesn't matter to me now. YouTube does some crazy stuff, right? What was it? Front Page Tech talked about it. Said that you can't say coronavirus on your YouTube video. Like, really? You can't say coronavirus on your YouTube video? That's sad. That's sad if you cannot say coronavirus. Just because, it's a current event thing. It's something that's happening. There's people who believe in espionage and cover-ups and things like that. It's just, yeah. YouTube is leftist. I have to use Bing to even get answers anymore, like who the whistleblower was. You know what? I was following that, and yeah. I mean, I've saw sites that named some name that, like when you watch the impeachment inquiry, and then you watch the trials on it, right? Like the different names that's just thrown out there about the whistleblower never really gets mentioned in House or in Senate. Never really gets mentioned. People say Vindman was the whistleblower, but Vindman wasn't the whistleblower. I watched his testimony on live TV, news coverage. He said it himself. He didn't hear the quid pro quo. He heard it from someone who says they heard it, from someone who says they heard it, from a person who heard it, from a person who actually heard it. It was all a bunch of hearsays that I kept hearing about. So I'm just like, I don't know what the whistleblower is. It's also censored me for talking about Operation even though it is a government policy. Yeah, there's a lot of things, and that's the reason why, like honestly, the reason why I don't talk politics on this channel really, is just like I said, like everyone has their point of view, but I noticed like today, there's not much tolerance to people's beliefs, my beliefs, your beliefs, their beliefs. It's just, yeah, and people get pretty violent over it, I miss the days where people could actually have dialogue, whether they agree, disagree, or whatever. They would have dialogue, and it would never come to it would never come to name calling. It would never come to some, it would never come to some hateful speech or whatever. And I'm not blaming one side or another side. Okay, both sides do it. The way I see it, both sides act in that manner, and it's not cool. It's not cool. Like, I'm a person that, I don't know, maybe people will call me a hippie or whatever, but, I feel like there should be more love in this world, more than ever now, than all this hatred that we're dealing with. Like, we breathe the same air. We bleed. We're struck the same way. So what makes us different other than our ideas and beliefs? And it's okay to have your ideas and beliefs. But you can't hate on the next person who doesn't allow you to force your ideas and beliefs into their mind. I'm 31 years old, and I've seen some real crazy stuff happen within my lifetime. I bet. I'm 37 years old, and I've seen some real crazy stuff happening within my lifetime. One side ripped the president's head off day one and burned down their own cities. It's like illegal to think for yourself now. It is. It really does feel like that way. Yes, it's true. I will agree with you on that. Dude, I agree with you. There's so much intolerance and whatnot in politics and all together. I don't even get political. Yeah, but see, it goes a little bit, beyond that, right? Like, politics is like the base that kind of like creates this environment. But now it's not even really that, right? Like a lot of people really feel afraid to voice their opinions about things that are non-political because of the backlash that they see what happens when, a certain side that, has the ideas and belief of either Republican or Democratic, right or left. People have seen what's happened, right? Like I remember, what was it? 3 years ago, I was upset. Not at what the title of the video was, because I didn't care. I didn't care if it was, leftists, if it was right wingers. I don't care. But the fact that, a group of people basically attacked an old man, drug him out of his vehicle, beat on him, and while he was being beaten, the other people that were involved in the group that jumped the old man took his car, drove off with it, all because of a bumper sticker. It has put fear into a lot of people who now they don't really want to voice their opinions, which is why like I don't talk politics so much at all on my YouTube channel or anything like that, is because I don't want people get into a conflict, because I see how this stuff kind of like sprouts and grows, and then just people get outed or whatever. Like I accept everybody regardless of whatever view they have, whatever their ethnicity is, whatever their belief is, whatever their their what's the best way to put it, their love preferences are. I don't care. I don't care if you're yellow, if you're green, if you're orange, if you're red. It doesn't matter to me, and I'm sad that my children are going to grow up in a world, if this mentality continues to be, I don't want this pushed onto my kids. I don't want my kids to think that way. Like my kids right now, they're not allowed to have that type of mentality. When they go to the playground, everybody's a friend. Everybody's a kid in that playground. The only people that they're not allowed to talk to is stranger adults, right? But if it's another kid, same age as them, playing on the playground, you can play with them. You can play with them in the sandbox. You can play on the swings, on the slide, or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't like this divide that's happening. We don't need to be divided at all. I saw that video. It was sad. That video. Yeah, it was. It was very sad. Kids getting slapped in the face by grown adults for wearing hats. That's what it's come to. Yeah, it is. It is. You can't support what you believe in. So it surprises me that mentality didn't trickle into the NFL. And, people attack somebody because they wore a New Orleans Saints hat or whatever. Like it is, this stuff is just getting so wild. And to me, here's my biggest fear before I close out my live stream. Here's my biggest fear. We're spending so much time looking at the differences between one another, other beliefs, ideas, race, or any of that stuff. We are so busy looking at our differences that I feel like that if any other country ever wanted to challenge us, ever wanted to take us over, it's coming to that point where it's going to be prime for the picking. Because there are countries that don't like the U.S. They work with the U.S. They deal with the U.S. They sit at the UN and listen to the U.S. talk about how countries should be. What happens, right? Because people will worry about like China taking over the United States and stuff like that. What happens if they actually try? What would we do if China decided to align with Russia, to align with Iran, to align with France, to align with Canada? Let's say they all become an alliance and they attack us. What do we do? We're so busy fighting amongst ourselves. What do we do? I'm the same way. Acceptance and open-mindedness lacks in every corner of society, and I accept everyone for who they are, regardless of who they are and what I believe in. That is the best way to think. Because we are all the same. I just wish that people would just have more love for one another. And so that's kind of why I smile and talk to people, regardless if they look at me like I'm weird. It's Gotta bring that back. Gotta bring the humanity back into things. Gotta get off our phones every now and then and actually look at the world. Maybe we'll have a better understanding of people. Anyways, guys, so agreed. People judge. Yes, they do. They do. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna cut this short. Well, for short, it's been 1 hour already since I've been on here. I do want to thank everyone who came inside and hung out with me during the broadcast. I know we did get political at the end, and anyone who watches the replay, hopefully you guys didn't get offended, okay? Because yeah, that's the point that myself and the guys that's in here that's chatting with me are trying to make, is that we're acceptance of everybody. It's not just you have to be one side or the other side. And so hopefully you guys don't find it offensive, okay? Because that's not the whole entire point of this. It's never meant to be offensive, but laying out just point of views. And then if you want to comment and give your point of view, your perspective, it's more than welcome. You guys know where to do it. If you're watching the replay, comment section of the video, share your thoughts. It's open forum for you guys. But thanks for watching. I'm gonna jam out now. It's already getting dark, and I'll see you guys next weekend. Aloha.